Beneath the ruins of Tula, once a thriving city of power and prestige, lies the mystery of a civilization that shaped Mesoamerica but vanished without clear cause. The Toltecs were not just builders, they were visionaries, rulers, and cultural architects whose influence stretched far beyond their time. Yet despite their brilliance, they disappeared from history, leaving behind only fragments of their story. What happened to them? Was it war, famine, or did internal politics, rivalries, betrayals, and unchecked ambition tear them apart from within? This is the tale of how a mighty empire rose to greatness and then collapsed under the weight of its own governance. The Toltec Empire began in the heart of Mesoamerica, rising from the ashes of earlier civilizations that had long shaped the region's culture and traditions. Around the 10th century CE, the city of Tula emerged as the center of this new power, built upon the legacies of the Teotihuacanos and other ancient peoples. Unlike their predecessors, the Toltecs mastered a unique blend of military might, architectural prowess, and religious devotion. They became known for their towering stone warriors, intricate carvings, and the legendary figure of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, who symbolized wisdom and renewal. As their influence spread across central Mexico, neighboring city-states either allied with or fell under the rule of the Toltecs. But with expansion came complexity, and with complexity came the seeds of conflict. Tula was more than a capital. It was the beating heart of the Toltec world. Located in what is now the state of Hidalgo, Mexico, its strategic position allowed the Toltecs to control vital trade routes and access key resources. The city grew into a hub of artistry, craftsmanship, and political authority. Its grand pyramids and plazas stood as monuments to the Toltecs' mastery of engineering and urban planning. Warriors trained in disciplined formations, while priests guided religious ceremonies that reinforced the divine right of rulers. The Toltecs developed a complex social hierarchy, with nobles, artisans, merchants, and farmers each playing a role in sustaining the empire. Their influence extended far beyond their borders, shaping the beliefs and customs of later civilizations, such as the Aztecs, who would come to revere the Toltecs as ancestors of their own culture. At its peak, the Toltec Empire stood as a beacon of knowledge and innovation. Scholars credit them with refining metallurgy, developing advanced irrigation systems, and spreading artistic styles that would echo through future generations. Their temples and plazas bore intricate carvings depicting mythological battles, celestial events, and deities like Tlaloc, the rain god. The Toltecs also pioneered the use of codices, painted books that recorded historical events, religious practices, and astronomical observations. Trade networks expanded under their rule, connecting distant regions and facilitating the exchange of goods such as obsidian, jade, cacao, and textiles. Their military campaigns secured vast territories, ensuring both stability and wealth. Yet even as the empire flourished, tensions simmered beneath the surface, hinting at the struggles that would one day unravel their dominance. Despite their outward strength, the Toltec Empire faced growing unrest within their own ranks. The ruling elite, composed of warrior priests and noble families, held immense power, but their authority was not absolute. Rival factions within the court vied for influence, often clashing over succession rights and religious interpretations. Some leaders sought to consolidate power through military conquests, while others favored diplomacy and trade. These divisions weakened the unity that had once bound the empire together. Reports from later chroniclers suggest that disputes among high-ranking officials led to assassinations, purges, and shifting alliances. Even the priesthood, once a stabilizing force, became embroiled in these conflicts, using religious doctrine to justify competing claims to leadership. As these tensions escalated, the once unshakable foundations of the Toltec state began to crack. One of the most pivotal moments in the decline of the Toltecs came when a trusted general turned on his own ruler. According to historical accounts, Huaymac, a prominent leader of Tula, faced increasing opposition from rival factions within the royal court. His chief military commander, dissatisfied with Huaymac's decisions, conspired with a group of discontented nobles to overthrow him. The coup attempt unfolded during a critical moment in Toltec history, when external threats loomed on the horizon. Instead of uniting against these dangers, the empire found itself divided by internal strife. The coup attempt failed, but it left deep scars. Loyalists executed the conspirators, yet suspicion and paranoia spread among the ruling class. Trust eroded further, and the once cohesive leadership fractured into competing camps, each seeking to impose its will over the empire. As factional struggles intensified, the Toltec Empire lost its ability to govern effectively. Regional governors, once loyal to the central authority in Tula, began to assert their independence. Some declared autonomy, refusing to send tribute or military support. Others formed uneasy alliances with rival city-states, weakening the empire's grip on its vast territories. The breakdown of centralized control led to chaos in the provinces, where local leaders exploited the power vacuum to seize authority for themselves. Banditry increased, trade routes became unsafe, and food shortages plagued once thriving cities. The once mighty Toltec army, divided by conflicting loyalties, could no longer maintain order.
While internal discord weakened the Toltecs from within, external forces seized the opportunity to strike. Nomadic groups from the north, long kept at bay by the empire's military strength, launched relentless raids on Toltec settlements. Among them were the Chichimecs, fierce warriors who saw the crumbling empire as vulnerable prey. In a decisive campaign, these invaders descended upon Tula, overwhelming its defenses. Archaeological evidence suggests that the city suffered extensive destruction, with many of its grand structures reduced to rubble. Fires consumed entire districts, and mass burials point to widespread violence. Some survivors fled to other regions, carrying remnants of Toltec culture to distant lands. Others assimilated into the victorious Chichimec society. By the early 12th century CE, Tula lay abandoned, its people scattered, and its legacy fading into legend. In the wake of the Toltec collapse, their cultural and political influence endured in unexpected ways. Though their empire crumbled, the ideals they championed, military discipline, architectural grandeur, and spiritual devotion, were absorbed by successor states. The Aztecs, centuries later, would claim descent from the Toltecs, regarding them as paragons of wisdom and civilization. Toltec symbols, myths, and artistic motifs resurfaced in Aztec temples and codices, preserving fragments of their lost heritage. However, much of their true history remained obscured. Oral traditions passed down through generations blurred fact with legend, transforming real rulers into gods and actual events into myths. The ruins of Tula, reclaimed by nature, stood as silent witnesses to a forgotten past. Historians today struggle to separate truth from embellishment, piecing together the final days of a once great civilization that fell not solely to foreign invasion, but to the corrosive effects of internal division. The fall of the Toltecs offers a cautionary tale about the fragility of power. Their empire was not undone by a single event, nor by a lone enemy, but by the slow erosion of trust, unity, and governance. Political infighting, unchecked ambition, and the failure to adapt to changing circumstances all played a role in their demise. The Toltecs had built a society capable of great achievements, yet they could not withstand the pressures from within. Their story mirrors those of countless civilizations throughout history. Great powers brought low not by external forces alone, but by the very institutions meant to sustain them. The echoes of their downfall remind us that no empire, no matter how powerful, is immune to the consequences of internal strife. Understanding their fate serves as a lesson for future generations, urging vigilance in the face of division and the pursuit of unity in times of crisis. Modern archaeology has helped bring the Toltecs back into focus, revealing details once lost to time. Excavations at Tula have uncovered monumental architecture, ceremonial centers, and artifacts that speak to the sophistication of their society. Researchers analyze pottery, tools, and skeletal remains to understand daily life, diet, and health in the empire's final years. Advances in radiocarbon dating and DNA analysis offer fresh insights into migration patterns and intermarriage between Toltec and neighboring populations. Museums and academic institutions work to preserve and display Toltec relics, allowing new generations to appreciate their contributions to Mesoamerican history. Despite the gaps in the historical record, scholars continue to piece together the puzzle, drawing on both physical evidence and ancient texts. Each discovery adds another layer to our understanding, proving that though the Toltecs may have faded from power, their legacy endures in the present. Among the most enduring figures linked to the Toltecs is Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity associated with creation, knowledge, and renewal. Legends tell of a wise ruler bearing the same name, said to have governed Tula with justice before vanishing into exile. Some stories claim he promised to return one day, a belief later exploited by the Spanish conquistadors when they arrived in Mesoamerica. While historians debate whether Quetzalcoatl was a real person or purely a mythological construct, the blending of religion and politics in Toltec society made such figures powerful symbols. Temples dedicated to him stood at the heart of Tula, and rituals honoring his presence shaped the empire's spiritual life. Whether historical or mythical, Quetzalcoatl embodied the ideals of leadership, learning, and cosmic balance, values that lived on long after the Toltec Empire fell. The Toltecs did not exist in isolation. Their relationships with neighboring cultures played a crucial role in shaping their rise and fall. At their height, they maintained complex interactions with city-states across Mesoamerica, forming both alliances and rivalries. Trade agreements ensured the steady flow of goods such as obsidian, cacao, and turquoise, while diplomatic marriages strengthened ties between ruling families. Yet these connections also introduced vulnerabilities. When internal strife weakened the Toltec leadership, former allies turned opportunistic, withdrawing support or joining rival factions. Enemies long held at bay by Toltec military might saw openings to strike. The collapse of Tula sent shockwaves through the region, leading to shifts in power dynamics that reshaped the political landscape of central Mexico. Understanding these relationships provides a fuller picture of the forces that contributed to the Toltecs' decline. Religion was deeply woven into the fabric of Toltec politics, shaping the legitimacy of rulers and guiding state decisions. The Toltec kings were seen as divine intermediaries, chosen by the gods to maintain cosmic order. Priests held significant influence, interpreting omens, conducting sacred rites, and advising leaders on matters of war and governance. Ritual sacrifices were performed to appease deities and ensure prosperity, reinforcing the connection between spiritual duty and political power. However, as internal conflicts grew, religious authority became a battleground. Different factions promoted competing interpretations of divine will, using prophecy and ritual to justify their claims to leadership. This politicization of faith deepened divisions, turning sacred traditions into tools of manipulation rather than unifying forces.
The Toltec military was once a formidable force known for its disciplined warriors and effective battle tactics. Their armies relied on a combination of elite warriors, archers, and spearmen trained in coordinated maneuvers that gave them an edge in regional conflicts. Fortified cities like Tula were designed to withstand sieges, with defensive walls and strategic positioning providing layers of protection. However, as internal divisions weakened command structures, military effectiveness declined. Loyalty to individual leaders rather than the empire as a whole led to disunity on the battlefield. Troops became less reliable, with some units defecting to rival factions or abandoning their posts altogether. Weakened by internal strife, the Toltec military could no longer repel external threats, leaving their cities vulnerable to invasion. The once feared warriors of Tula found themselves overwhelmed, unable to mount a unified defense against the forces that would ultimately bring about their downfall. Economic stability played a crucial role in the rise and eventual decline of the Toltec Empire. At its peak, the empire thrived on a well-organized system of agriculture, trade, and resource management. Farmers cultivated maize, beans, squash, and chili peppers in fertile valleys surrounding Tula, supported by sophisticated irrigation techniques. Surpluses enabled the growth of urban centers where artisans produced finely crafted ceramics, textiles, and metalwork. Markets bustled with activity, exchanging goods ranging from luxury items like jade and feathers to essential commodities such as salt and cotton. Tribute from conquered regions further enriched the empire, funding public works and military campaigns. However, as internal conflicts disrupted governance, economic systems faltered. Trade routes became unstable, agricultural production declined due to neglect and warfare, and the once prosperous economy began to unravel, hastening the empire's collapse. As the Toltecs struggled to hold their empire together, desperation took hold in the streets of Tula. Once a city of order and discipline, it became a place of fear and uncertainty. Food shortages worsened, forcing citizens to ration supplies or flee in search of sustenance. Bands of mercenaries roamed the outskirts, selling their swords to the highest bidder. The ruling council, fractured by mistrust, could not agree on a unified strategy to counter the growing threats. Walls that had once protected the city showed signs of wear, and defenders grew wary from constant skirmishes. When the final assault came, it was swift and brutal. Invading forces breached the gates, setting fire to homes and temples alike. Survivors spoke of chaos, of desperate last stands, and futile pleas for mercy. In the end, Tula fell, not with a dramatic last battle, but with a slow, agonizing surrender to disorder and conquest. After the fall of Tula, the Toltecs did not vanish entirely. Their memory endured in the oral traditions of later Mesoamerican civilizations, particularly the Aztecs, who viewed them as ancestors of cultural refinement and political wisdom. Stories of their golden age, their mighty warriors, and their enlightened rulers spread through generations, blending history with mythology. The Aztecs adopted many Toltec customs, including artistic styles, religious symbols, and military strategies, believing that they were continuing a sacred legacy. Chroniclers like Sahagún and Duran recorded these tales centuries later, preserving fragments of Toltec history intertwined with legend. Some accounts describe the Toltecs as master builders who constructed wonders beyond human capability, while others portray them as victims of their own excesses. These narratives, though often exaggerated, offer glimpses into a civilization that refused to be forgotten even as its cities lay in ruins. Unraveling the true story of the Toltecs remains a challenge for historians and archaeologists. Much of what is known comes from post-Toltec sources, particularly Aztec records compiled centuries after Tula's fall. These accounts, while valuable, are often colored by myth and political bias. The Aztecs, eager to legitimize their own rule, portrayed the Toltecs as a near-perfect civilization, exaggerating their achievements and moral virtues. Meanwhile, Spanish chroniclers, influenced by colonial perspectives, sometimes distorted native histories to fit European narratives. Modern scholars rely on a combination of archaeological findings, linguistic analysis, and comparative studies to reconstruct a more accurate picture. Yet many questions remain unanswered. Did Quetzalcoatl truly exist? How much of Tula's downfall was self-inflicted? As research continues, the line between history and legend grows ever thinner, making the quest for truth both compelling and elusive. Though the Toltec Empire faded, its impact endured in the cultures that followed. The Aztecs, in particular, drew heavily from Toltec traditions, adopting their artistic styles, religious iconography, and concepts of rulership. Many of the grand structures in Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, reflected the architectural influence of Tula, with similar designs for temples, ball courts, and ceremonial platforms. The Aztec concept of the Triple Alliance mirrored the Toltec model of centralized power balanced by regional authorities. Even the famed Chinampa farming system used extensively by the Aztecs had roots in earlier Toltec agricultural innovations. Beyond the Aztecs, other Mesoamerican societies incorporated elements of Toltec culture into their own, ensuring that the empire's contributions to art, governance, and spirituality lived on long after its fall. Today, the remnants of the Toltec Empire lie scattered across central Mexico, offering tantalizing glimpses into a once great civilization. The ruins of Tula, though partially restored, still bear the scars of centuries of abandonment and natural decay. Archaeologists work tirelessly to uncover new artifacts, decipher inscriptions, and map out the layout of the ancient city. Preservation efforts aim to protect surviving structures from environmental damage and human encroachment. Museums house recovered Toltec relics, allowing researchers and the public to study their craftsmanship and symbolism. Yet much of the empire's material culture remains buried or lost to time. Looters, urban expansion, and the passage of centuries have taken their toll. Every excavation brings new discoveries, but also underscores the urgency of safeguarding what little remains. The race to preserve Toltec history continues, driven by the desire to honor a civilization that once shaped the course of Mesoamerican history.
Beyond academia, the Toltecs have captured the imagination of writers, artists, and filmmakers. Their mystique has inspired novels, documentaries, and even the speculative theories about lost knowledge and ancient wisdom. Some modern interpretations romanticize the Toltecs as enlightened sages, portraying them as keepers of esoteric teachings that transcended their time. Others depict them as tragic heroes, undone by their own hubris and internal conflicts. These portrayals, while often dramatized, serve to keep the Toltecs alive in popular consciousness. Educational programs and museum exhibits introduce new audiences to their achievements, ensuring that their story does not fade into obscurity. Though separated by centuries, modern societies continue to find meaning in the rise and fall of the Toltecs, drawing lessons from their triumphs and mistakes. Historians often wonder whether the Toltecs could have avoided their fate. Were their internal divisions inevitable, or could strong leadership have steered them away from collapse? Some argue that the seeds of destruction were embedded in their political structure, a rigid hierarchy prone to infighting and resistance to reform. Others suggest that external pressures, such as climate shifts or invasions, played an unavoidable role. Had the Toltecs adapted more swiftly to changing conditions, perhaps they could have survived. Perhaps if they had embraced cooperation over competition, or if their rulers had prioritized unity over personal ambition, the empire might have endured. Yet history offers no second chances. The Toltecs stand as a testament to both human ingenuity and human frailty, reminding us that even the greatest civilizations can fall when they fail to guard against the forces that threaten their foundations. Research into the Toltecs continues to evolve, fueled by new technologies and interdisciplinary approaches. Advances in remote sensing, LiDAR scanning, and digital mapping help archaeologists uncover hidden structures beneath dense vegetation and modern development. Genetic studies trace the movement of Toltec descendants, shedding light on migration patterns and cultural continuity. Collaborative efforts between historians, linguists, and scientists refine our understanding of Toltec society, bringing clarity to long-standing mysteries.
As interest in Mesoamerican history grows, so too does the drive to protect and promote Toltec heritage. Future discoveries may reshape current narratives, challenging assumptions and revealing overlooked aspects of their civilization. The story of the Toltecs is far from complete, and with each new finding, their legacy becomes richer, more nuanced, and more relevant to the present day. The story of the Toltecs is not just a chapter in Mesoamerican history, it is part of a broader narrative of human civilization. Like the Romans, the Mayans, and countless others, the Toltecs rose to prominence through innovation, ambition, and organization, only to succumb to the same forces that have toppled empires throughout time. Their experience underscores universal themes: the struggle for power, the burden of leadership, and the delicate balance between progress and preservation. Their fall serves as a reminder that no society, no matter how advanced, is immune to internal decay. Yet their endurance in cultural memory proves that ideas, values, and achievements can outlive even the mightiest of empires. The Toltecs may have been lost to time, but their influence lingers, woven into the fabric of history, waiting to be rediscovered by those who seek to understand the past. The fall of the Toltecs is but one example of how civilizations rise and fall, leaving behind echoes that shape the future. Their story invites exploration of other lost cultures, each with its own triumphs, failures, and enduring legacies. From the enigmatic Olmecs, considered the mother culture of Mesoamerica, to the mighty Maya, whose cities still stand in the jungles of Central America, the region is rich with untold histories. Farther afield, the Indus Valley Civilization, the Nabateans of Petra, and the Khmer Empire of Angkor offer additional lessons on the fragility of power and the resilience of human achievement. Each civilization tells a unique story, yet common threads connect them all: ambition, adaptation, and the eternal struggle to maintain order in an ever-changing world. As we continue to uncover the past, we gain deeper insight into the forces that shape societies, both ancient and modern. The ruins of Tula and the remnants of the Toltec Empire stand as fragile testaments to a civilization that once commanded vast influence. Yet without continued efforts to protect and study these sites, their story risks being lost forever. Governments, scholars, and communities must work together to ensure that Toltec heritage remains accessible for future generations. Preservation initiatives, educational outreach, and responsible tourism play vital roles in safeguarding ancient sites from decay, looting, and urban expansion. Public awareness fosters appreciation for the depth and complexity of Mesoamerican history, encouraging investment in research and conservation. By protecting the past, we do more than honor those who came before us. We equip ourselves with the knowledge needed to navigate the challenges of the present. The Toltecs may no longer walk their grand plazas, but their legacy lives on in every effort to remember, understand, and learn from their journey. History is not confined to the past. It is a living force that shapes our present and guides our future. The rise and fall of the Toltecs remind us that civilizations are built not only on stone and law, but on the choices of those who lead them. Their triumphs teach us the value of innovation and unity, while their downfall warns of the dangers of division and short-sighted ambition. Every ruin, every artifact, every preserved text is a link to a world that once was, offering lessons that remain relevant today. As we uncover more about the Toltecs, we do more than satisfy curiosity. We deepen our understanding of human nature, governance, and the cycles that define history. Their story is not merely of loss, but of endurance, influence, and inspiration. And as long as there are those who seek to learn, the legacy of the Toltecs will never truly fade.